Before the time when the Prophet Muhammad began to preach the word and the ways of Allah, there were many Arabs who preferred their sons to their daughters. Sons were strong. They could work hard. They could bring great benefits to their parents and their family. But daughters, being girls, were weak, or so the Arabs thought. Not only that, girls were a nuisance and were a burden and an expense on a family. Many Arab fathers had no use for girls, and when a daughter was born to them instead of a son, they did not feel at all pleased. Some of them got very angry at the birth of a girl and buried her alive. Fortunately, though, not many Arab fathers were like the man who went to the Prophet and confessed to a truly terrible crime. This man had once been an idol worshipper like all the Arabs, before the blessed Muhammad came among them and showed them the holy way of Islam. Before he became a Muslim, the Arab had had a daughter, a sweet little girl, who loved her father and was always hugging and kissing him. Whenever her father called, this little girl came running towards him, always ready to show her love. One day the Arab called to her, and of course she ran to his side. He took her for a long walk, and the girl skipped and hopped happily beside her father as they went along. The poor little thing never guessed what a dreadful fate lay ahead of her. Before long, the father and his daughter came to a well. Suddenly, without warning, he grabbed her, lifted her up, and threw her down the well. The little girl was dreadfully frightened and cried out in terror, shrieking, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy!" But the father refused to listen to her pleas and her cries for help. Instead, he threw a load of earth down the well to bury his daughter. And then he went home and left her to die. It was a heart-rending story. The father was full of remorse and guilt for the dreadful murder he had committed, but the deed was done. Nothing could bring the little girl back to life. Her father would have to suffer his guilt for the rest of his life. Naturally, the Prophet was appalled when he heard what the father had done. His heart ached with sorrow. Tears welled up in his eyes and spilled down his face and into his beard. The Prophet wept so much that his face and beard became very wet, and the hairs on his beard were all straggly with water. When his friends saw the Prophet weep like this, they became very unhappy and felt their eyes, too, fill with tears. All the same, they knew it was right for the Prophet to shed so many tears for the poor little girl who had died such a terrible death. For had he not taught his people that they should love all children, both boys and girls? Had he not said, Allah loves he who loves and looks after his family, especially the girls? And was the Prophet not the greatest friend the children of the world have ever had?